No, Doyen said. You did what humans do. And today, that made all the difference. 3 days had passed since the crisis in the biodome. The Krishari warships still surrounded the station, but their weapons were no longer charged. Inside, the atmosphere had changed from fear to careful curiosity. Queen Veltara sat in a private meeting room with Ambassador Doyen and a small group of humans. The Queen had requested this meeting herself, which surprised everyone. Krishari royalty did not usually ask to learn from other species. They were the teachers, the conquerors, the strong ones who led by example, but the Queen had questions that would not leave her mind. Explain it to me again, she said. This instinct you speak of, this need to care for children who are not your own. Sora, the human cultural specialist, pulled up a holographic display. It showed images of Earth animals. Your Majesty, humans are not the only species that shows this behavior. Many Earth creatures do the same. Look here. The display showed a dog nursing abandoned kittens, then an elephant herd surrounding a wounded baby that was not their own, then humans holding infants from different ethnic groups, different regions, even different species that they had adopted. We call it pack bonding, Sora explained. Humans evolved to live in groups. We survived because we took care of each other. A human who sees a helpless creature in distress feels a strong urge to help. We cannot easily ignore it. For many of us, we cannot ignore it at all. But why? The Queen leaned forward. In nature, you should only protect your own offspring. Protecting others' children wastes resources. It is inefficient. Perhaps, Doyen said, but it also made us stronger as a species. If a mother died, the tribe would care for her children. If a child was orphaned, someone would adopt them. We did not lose our young ones to simple accidents or bad luck. This let more humans survive to adulthood. The Queen's antennae twitched thoughtfully. And this carried over to other species? To creatures that are not human at all? Yes, Sora said. Humans have domesticated hundreds of species. We keep them as companions, as helpers, as friends. We feel genuine love for them. When we went to space and met other intelligent beings, that instinct did not disappear. We just extended it further. Minji, who had been quiet until now, added her own perspective. Your Majesty, I have a daughter. She is 5 years old. If I saw her scared and lost, I would want someone to help her, anyone. It would not matter if they were human or not. I would be grateful to any being who showed her kindness. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she said something that surprised them all. I did not think about that. When my daughters were missing, I thought only of threats and enemies. I did not think that someone might simply help. That is because your culture is different, Doyen said carefully. The Krishari value strength and independence. These are good values. They have made your empire powerful. But they also make it hard to accept help from strangers. Or to offer it, the Queen said quietly. In our history, showing weakness is dangerous. Asking for help makes you a target. We teach our children to be strong, to be cautious, to trust only their own clan. But your daughters trusted Hajun, Sora pointed out gently. Yes, they did. The Queen's armor dimmed to a softer color, because he was not strong or threatening. He was gentle. He moved slowly. He offered food without demanding anything in return. These are not behaviors they had seen before. I think it confused them so much they forgot to be afraid. Taiyang spoke up from his position near the door. Your Majesty, if I may ask a question, how do Krishari parents comfort their children when they are upset? The Queen turned to look at him. We teach them to overcome their fear, to be stronger than their emotions. A warrior does not cry. A princess does not show weakness. And if they are very young, too young to understand being strong, the Queen hesitated. We do not show much physical affection. The young must learn independence early. It prepares them for the harshness of life. The humans in the room exchanged glances. Doyen chose his next words carefully. Your Majesty, I mean no disrespect to your culture, but may I share how humans raise children? Please. Doyen pulled up images on the display. They showed human parents holding babies close, rocking them gently. Children being hugged after nightmares. Adults comforting crying youngsters with soft words and warm embraces. We hold them, Doyen said simply. We touch them frequently. We speak softly. Human children who do not receive this kind of physical comfort can develop serious problems. We call it touch starvation. It can harm them as badly as not having enough food. Touch, the Queen repeated. Physical comfort, yes, humans are warm. Our normal body temperature is about 37 degrees. When a human holds a child, that warmth is comforting. And our hearts beat in a steady rhythm, about 70 beats per minute when we are calm. That rhythm soothes young ones. It tells them they are safe. The Queen's antennae went very still. Lixa said Hayun's heartbeat was like a sleeping stone. Warm and steady. Exactly, Sora said. When your daughters curled up near him, they could feel his warmth and hear his heartbeat. To them it probably felt like safety, like being near a protector who was calm and unafraid. And the humming, Minji added. Humans often hum or sing to children. The vibration of the sound is comforting. It is another signal that everything is okay. Queen Veltara stood and walked to the window. Outside, the station's activity continued as normal. Different species going about their business, no longer afraid. She watched a human woman walk past, carrying a small alien child on her hip. The child was clearly not human, but the woman smiled at it with obvious affection. We have conquered 17 systems, the Queen said. We have the finest warriors in this arm of the galaxy. Our technology is advanced, our tactics are flawless. But we do not know how to comfort a frightened child without making them ashamed of their fear. No one knew what to say to that. The Queen turned back to face them. I want to hire Hajun as a consultant. Ambassador Doyen blinked. Your Majesty, I want him to teach Krishari parents about human methods of child rearing. Not to replace our ways, but to add to them. Perhaps there is room for both strength and comfort. That is a remarkable idea, Doyen said, genuinely impressed. But Hajun is not a teacher or a childcare expert. He is a botanist. He is someone my daughters trusted when they trusted no one else, the Queen corrected. He has something we need to understand. I do not care what his job title is. Later that day, Hajun was summoned to meet with the Queen again. He arrived nervous, still not entirely comfortable being near someone so powerful. The Queen waited in a small garden area, her daughters playing nearby under the watch of guards. You sent for me, Your Majesty. Hajun bowed respectfully. Sit with me, Nest Keeper, the Queen said. She gestured to a bench that had been reinforced to hold her weight. Hajun sat carefully, very aware of the massive alien beside him. My advisors tell me you are 26 Earth years old, the Queen said. You studied biology and botany. You have worked on this station for 2 years. You are not married and you have no children of your own. That is all correct, Your Majesty. Then why did you know how to care for lost children? Where did you learn this? Hajun thought about it. I suppose. I did not learn it anywhere specific. My mother was warm and affectionate. When I was scared as a child, she would hold me and tell me stories until I felt better. My father taught me to be gentle with small creatures. I had a cat when I was young. She taught me that scared animals need space and patience. He smiled at the memory. And I grew up helping in my grandmother's garden. She said plants and children were similar. They need the right environment to thrive, not too hot or too cold. Good food, patience, gentle care. Your grandmother sounds wise, the Queen said. She was. She passed away 3 years ago. But I think of her every day when I work with the plants. They sat in silence for a moment. Then the Queen said, Watch my daughters. Hajun looked over at the princesses. They were playing some kind of game with small stones, arranging them in patterns. When one made a mistake, the other would click sharply and reset the stones. There was no encouragement, no comfort when errors were made. Just correction and the expectation to do better. They play like they are training, Hajun observed. Because they are, the Queen said. Every activity is a lesson. Every game teaches strategy or coordination or quick thinking. There is no time for frivolous play. That sounds exhausting, Hajun said, then immediately worried he had been too honest. But the Queen just made that grinding sound that was her laugh. It is. I am beginning to see that now. Princess Lixa noticed Hajun and immediately ran over, her sister close behind. They clicked happily and touched his hands with their small forelegs. They have been asking to see you, the Queen said. Every day since the incident. I am happy to see them too, Hajun said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 small flowers he had brought, each one carefully chosen for its soft petals and gentle scent. He offered them to the princesses. Both of them took the flowers carefully, examining them with their antennae. Then they did something the Queen had never seen before. They pressed the flowers against their faces, clearly enjoying the soft texture and smell. They were not analyzing them or trying to understand their strategic value. They were 2 weeks had passed since Hajun agreed to spend time with the princesses. The change in Celestial Haven was remarkable. The Krishari warships still orbited the station. but now they were there as protection, not as a threat. Krishari soldiers walked through the corridors without weapons drawn, and other species no longer fled when they approached. The peace talks had resumed, but now they felt different. Queen Veltara sat at the negotiation table with new understanding. She listened more. She asked questions instead of making demands. When disagreements arose, she looked for compromise instead of dominance. Ambassador Doyen noticed these changes. During a break in the talks, he mentioned it to the Queen. "Your Majesty, you seem different. If I may say so, the negotiations have been much more productive this week." The Queen's antennae tilted in what he had learned was amusement. "I have been learning, Ambassador. From your people. From Hajun. I am beginning to understand that strength comes in many forms." She gestured to a viewport where they could see into one of the biodome sections. There Hajun sat on the ground with both princesses. They were planting seeds together. Hajun showed them how to make a small hole in the soil, place the seed and cover it gently. The princesses worked slowly, carefully, their movements delicate despite their natural strength. 3 weeks ago I would have said that was a waste of time, the Queen said. "What does a princess need to know about planting? That is work for servants, for lower castes. But watch them." Doyen watched. Princess Lixa accidentally crushed her seed with too much pressure. She made a distressed click, but Hajun just smiled and handed her another seed, showing her again how to be gentle. No criticism, no disappointment, just patient guidance. "They are learning more than gardening," the Queen said. "They are learning that it is acceptable to make mistakes. That being gentle is not the same as being weak. That creating life is as valuable as taking it. Those are good lessons for anyone," Doyen said. "Yes. And lessons that Krishari culture has forgotten, if we ever knew them." The Queen turned away from the viewport. "Ambassador, I wish to propose something for our treaty." "I am listening, Your Majesty. I want to establish a cultural exchange program. Not just for diplomats and politicians, but for families. For parents and children. I want Krishari families to spend time with human families, to see how you raise your young. And I want human families to learn about Krishari honor and strength." Doyen felt excitement build in his chest. This was more than he had hoped for. "Your Majesty, that would be a tremendous step forward. I think our people would embrace such a program." "Good, because I want Hajun to help design it." "Hajun?" Doyen could not hide his surprise. "Your Majesty, he has no experience in diplomacy or education. He is a botanist." "He is a nest keeper," the Queen corrected firmly.
"He has what many teachers and diplomats lack."
"He has genuine compassion without agenda. He helps because it is his nature, not because he wants something in return. That is exactly the kind of person who should guide this program." Before Doyen could respond, an alarm sounded. Not a crisis alarm, but the chime that indicated an important announcement. Every screen in the area lit up with the same message. Guard Captain Thax appeared on the screens. Behind him stood the entire Krishari Royal Guard in full ceremonial armor. The old warrior's mandibles opened in a formal gesture. "People of Celestial Haven," his voice rang out through the translation system. "The Krishari Empire wishes to make a public declaration. Today we honor one who showed courage without weapons, strength without force, and compassion without reward. Hajun of Earth, called the Nest Keeper, is hereby granted the title of Honorary Protector of the Royal House. He is recognized as a friend to all Krishari, now and forever." In the biodome, Hajun looked up from his planting, confused by the announcement. The princesses clicked excitedly, clearly understanding what was happening even if he did not. The announcement continued. "Furthermore, the Krishari Empire pledges alliance with humanity. We recognize humans as a people of honor, worthy of respect and partnership. Let it be known across the galaxy that any who threaten humanity threatens the Krishari Empire." In the negotiation room, Doyen stared at the Queen. "Your Majesty, this is unprecedented. It is necessary," the Queen said. "For too long, the Krishari have been known only for our strength in battle. Let us be known also for recognizing goodness when we see it, for honoring those who deserve honor, for learning from those who have wisdom to teach." The announcement ended, but its impact rippled through the station immediately. Other species ambassadors began requesting meetings. Trade offers poured in. If the mighty Krishari had allied with humans, then humans must be worth knowing. That evening, a ceremony was held in the main plaza. Species from across the station gathered to witness the formal signing of the Human-Krishari Alliance Treaty. The document was long and complex, covering trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and cultural exchanges. But the spirit of it was simple. Two different peoples, learning to see value in each other's way of life. Queen Veltara signed first, using the traditional Krishari method of pressing her foreleg into special ink. Then Ambassador Doyen signed with a human stylus. They stood together before the crowd and the Queen spoke. This treaty begins because one human saw two lost children and chose kindness. That is a small thing, perhaps. But small kindnesses can change the galaxy. She gestured, and Hajin was brought forward from where he had been hiding in the back of the crowd. He looked terrified at being the center of attention. The Queen's antennae tilted with amusement. "Hajin the Nest Keeper," she said formally. "You asked for nothing. You expected no reward. You simply did what you thought was right. In doing so, you prevented a war, created an alliance, and taught an old queen that there are many kinds of strength. For this, the Krishari people owe you a debt we can never fully repay." She held out a crystalline medallion. It glowed with the same inner light as her armor. "This is the Star of Compassion. It is given only to those who embody the highest ideals of caring for others. In all of Krishari history, it has been awarded 17 times. You are the 18th recipient, and the first non-Krishari to receive this honor." Hajun took the medallion with shaking hands. "Your Majesty, I only did what anyone should do." "That is precisely why you deserve it," the Queen said. "You see helping others as natural, not extraordinary. Would that more beings in the galaxy thought as you do?" The crowd erupted in applause and the various sounds different species made to show approval. Hajun stood there overwhelmed as cameras captured the moment for historical records. Later, after the formal ceremony ended, a smaller gathering took place in the biodome. This was not for diplomats or the public. Just the Queen, her daughters Hajun, and a few close friends including Ambassador Doyen, Minji, Taeyang, and Sora. The princesses had been working on a surprise. They had planted an entire section of the garden themselves with Hajun's guidance. Flowers from both Earth and the Krishari homeworld grew together, their different colors and shapes creating something new and beautiful. "It is called a friendship garden," Princess Lixa explained through her translator. "Hajun says that different plants can help each other grow. The tall ones give shade to the small ones. The deep-rooted ones bring water up for the shallow roots. They are better together than alone. Like our people," Princess Myra added. "Humans and Krishari. Different but better together." Queen Veltara looked at the garden for a long time. Then she looked at her daughters, who stood close to Hajun without fear or formality. They had learned to trust, to show affection, to ask for help when they needed it. They were still learning to be strong, but now they were also learning to be happy. "Hajun," the Queen said, "I have one more request." "Anything, Your Majesty," Hajun said, though he looked nervous about what it might be. "I want you to come to the Krishari homeworld. As an honored guest and teacher, help us build schools where Krishari children can learn that being gentle does not mean being weak, that showing emotion is not shameful, that asking for help is wisdom, not failure." Hajun swallowed hard. "Your Majesty, I am not a teacher. I grow plants. I have no idea how to change an entire culture." "You do not need to change it," the Queen said. "Just add to it. Show our people what you showed me, that there are many paths to strength and compassion is one of them." She knelt down, bringing her enormous form to eye level with the young human. "You prevented a war by being kind to two scared children. Imagine what you could do by teaching a generation of Krishari children that kindness matters, that gentleness has value, that creating life is as honorable as defending it." Ambassador Doyen put a hand on Hajun's shoulder. "You would not be alone. We would send teachers, child development experts, anyone you need. But the Queen is right. You have something special. Not training or education, but genuine caring. That is what makes the difference." Hajun looked at the two princesses. They watched him with their large compound eyes, antennae tilted hopefully. He thought about how scared they had been when he first found them, and how much they had changed in just 2 weeks. They laughed now. They played without turning it into training. They gave hugs, something no Krishari child had done before them. "Okay," he said finally. "I will try." Time seemed to freeze. Everyone in the clearing stood perfectly still, like a photograph. The only movement came from the two small creatures on Hajun's mat, who continued to make distressed clicking sounds. Queen Veltara took one step forward. The ground trembled beneath her weight. Her 6 arms spread wide, and her armor blazed so bright it cast hard shadows across the plants. When she spoke, her voice was like an earthquake. "Step away from my daughters, human." Hajun's mind raced. Daughters. These were the queen's daughters, the missing princesses, and he had been feeding them his lunch and making nests for them like they were lost pets. He felt like he might faint. I did not know," Hajun stammered. He raised his hand slowly, showing he held no weapons. "I thought they were." "I did not mean—" "Step away." The queen's roar made several of the security officers stumble backward. But something strange happened. When Hajun started to move away from the mat, both princesses made louder, more urgent clicking sounds. They scrambled off the mat and moved toward Hajun, pressing close to his legs. One of them wrapped her small forelegs around his ankle. Everyone froze again, but for a different reason this time. The princesses were not running to their mother. They were staying with the human. Queen Veltara stared. Her armor's glow flickered with confusion. "Lixa, Myra, come here, come to mother." The princesses looked at their mother, then back at Hajun. They made soft clicking sounds but did not move away from him. Ambassador Doyun saw an opportunity in the confusion. He stepped forward carefully, keeping his voice calm. "Your Majesty, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Hajun is our botanist. He works here in the gardens. I do not think he knew who your daughters were." "He had my children," the queen said, but some of the rage had left her voice. She was too confused to stay completely angry. "Why do they stay with him? Why do they not come to me?" Hajun found his voice, though it shook. "Your Majesty, I truly did not know they were your daughters. I found them here several hours ago. They seemed scared and hungry, so I shared my food and made them a comfortable place to rest. That is all. I would never hurt children." The queen's translator crackled as it processed his words. She looked at her daughters again, really looked at them. They seemed healthy, not hurt or frightened except by all the sudden noise and weapons. "Guard Captain Thax," the queen said. "Scan them. Are they injured?" The old warrior pulled out a medical scanner and approached carefully. The princesses clicked nervously but allowed him close because Hajun stayed calm and still. After a moment, Thax looked up. "They are unharmed, my queen, well-fed, properly hydrated. Their stress levels are actually lower than normal." He sounded surprised by this last part. "Lower than normal?" the queen repeated. "How is that possible?" "They have been lost for hours." Minji, who had been watching everything carefully, spoke up. "Your Majesty, may I approach?" The queen gestured permission. Minji walked slowly to the rest area and examined it. She pointed at the jacket, the arranged leaves, the thermal unit. "This is a nest," she said. "Hajun built them a nest, and he has been staying nearby while they slept. Look." She pointed at Hajun's tablet, still lying where he had been working. He was just a few meters away the whole time, working quietly. They could rest safely because they knew he was there. But why would they trust him? The queen demanded. They are taught from birth to be cautious of strangers. All Krishari children learn this. Ambassador Doyun made a decision. It was risky, but they needed the queen to understand. "Your Majesty, may I explain something about humans? About how we evolved?" The queen's antennae twitched. "Speak." "Humans evolved as social creatures," Doyun said. "We lived in small groups and we survived by taking care of each other, especially the young ones. It is built into us, into our very nature, to protect and nurture children, not just human children, any children." He gestured at Hajun. Hajun saw two young beings in distress. His instinct was to help them, to make them feel safe. He could not do anything else. "It is who we are." The queen was quiet for a long moment. She looked at Hajun, really looked at him. He was young, thin, dressed in dirty work clothes. His hands were stained with plant sap. He looked terrified but was still standing between her soldiers and her daughters. "You are not a warrior," she observed. "No, Your Majesty," Hajun said. "I am just a gardener. Yet you protected my daughters. I did not know they needed protecting. I only knew they needed help." One of the princesses, Lixa, made a series of clicks. The queen's translator processed it. "She says you sang to them. She says your heartbeat is warm and steady like a sleeping stone. She says you smell like growing things and safety." Hajun blinked. I was just humming while I worked. And I run warm. Most humans do. It is our metabolism." Princess Myra added her own clicks. The translator spoke. "She says you built them a nest without being asked. She says you shared your food even though you are small and might need it yourself." She says you moved slowly and spoke softly so they would not be afraid. The queen took another step forward, but this time it was not aggressive. She knelt down, bringing her massive form closer to ground level. Her daughters immediately perked up and ran to her, climbing onto her armored body and clicking excitedly. They were telling her everything that had happened. While the princesses talked, the queen kept her eyes on Hajun. He stood awkwardly, not sure if he should stay or go, trying not to shake despite the adrenaline flooding his system. Finally, the queen spoke. Hajun the gardener, do you know what would have happened if you had harmed my daughters? War, Hajun said quietly. I heard about the peace talks. Everyone on the station knows how important they are. Yes. War. The queen's armor dimmed slightly. I was ready to destroy this entire station, to begin a campaign against your species that would have lasted generations. I am glad I did not hurt them then, Hajun said. The absurdity of the situation made him add, they are very sweet. Even if I had known who they were, I would have done the same thing. Ambassador Doyen tensed, afraid that Hajun's casual tone might offend. But the queen made a sound like grinding rocks. Her translator did not process it, but Guard Captain Thax's mandibles opened in surprise. The queen laughs, he said. I have not heard her laugh in years. Queen Veltara stood, her daughters now perched on her shoulders. Ambassador Doyen, I owe you an apology. I accused your people of kidnapping. I threatened war. But the truth is, my daughters wandered off, got lost, and found help from a human who asked nothing in return. No apology is necessary, Your Majesty, Doyen said, relief flooding through him. You were protecting your children. Any mother would do the same. Perhaps, the queen said. But a Krishari mother would have sent warriors. She would have demanded blood. She would not have trusted strangers to help search. She looked at her daughters. My children trusted a stranger because he showed them kindness. This is not something we teach in the Krishari Empire. She turned her full attention to Hajun again. You may be just a gardener, Hajun of Earth, but today you prevented a war. Not with weapons or treaties, but with simple compassion. I do not know if I should thank you or be ashamed that my warrior culture did not prepare my daughters for the possibility that strangers might help instead of harm. Hajun did not know what to say to that. He settled for a respectful bow. I am just glad they are safe, Your Majesty. The princesses clicked again, and this time they were clearly asking a question. The queen listened, then her antennae drooped slightly. They want to know if they can visit you again, she said. They wish to see more of your gardens. Every human in the clearing held their breath. This was a delicate moment. Ambassador Doyen knew that how the queen answered would set the tone for all future human-Krishari relations. The queen was silent for a long time. Then she said, yes, they may visit. But with guards present, the princesses made happy sounds. Hajun smiled, and some of the tension left his shoulders. There is one more thing, the queen said. In Krishari culture, when someone saves a life, they become part of that life's story. You saved my daughters from fear, from hunger, from the dangers of being lost in a strange place. That creates a bond. A bond? Hajun asked nervously. You are now by our law a nest keeper, a protector of the young. It is a title given only to those who earn absolute trust. The queen's armor glowed softly, a warm color this time instead of angry. You will be welcomed in any Krishari home, Hajun the gardener. My people will know you as a friend to the royal family. Hajun looked overwhelmed. I thank you, Your Majesty. I do not know what to say. Say you will continue to be the kind of person who helps lost children, no matter whose children they are, the queen said. That will be thanks enough. As the queen left the biodome with her daughters and guards, Doyen put a hand on Hajun's shoulder. The young botanist was trembling now that the danger had passed. Hajun, Doyen said quietly, do you know what you just did? I fed 2 hungry kids and let them take a nap? Hajun offered weakly. Doyen laughed. You created the foundation for peace between our species. All because you were kind without thinking about it, without knowing who they were or what it might mean. Hajun looked at his simple rest area, at the nest he had built from a jacket and leaves. I just did what anyone would do. The station transformed into a place of fear overnight. Krishari soldiers marched through the corridors in groups, their armor clanking with each step. They carried scanners and weapons, checking every room they passed. When they found a locked door, they did not ask permission. They simply tore it open. Queen Veltara had set up a command center in the largest conference room. Holographic displays floated around her, showing maps of the station. Her 6 arms moved constantly, pointing at sections that had not been searched yet, demanding updates, sending orders to her soldiers. Her armor blazed so brightly that it hurt to look at her directly. Ambassador Doyen had not slept. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his voice had grown hoarse from giving orders. He stood in the Human Operations Center, surrounded by screens and stressed crew members. Every few minutes, his communicator buzzed with another report. None of them were good news. Section 12 is clear, Minji said, marking it off on her map. That is 70% of the station searched. 70% is not enough, Doyen said. He rubbed his face with both hands. We are running out of time. If we do not find those princesses in the next 6 hours, the Queen will attack. Taeyang looked up from his computer terminal. Ambassador, I have been thinking. The sensor blind spot near the biodome is larger than we realized. There are multiple rooms and corridors in that area that do not have camera coverage. If the princesses went in there, then they could still be there, Doyen finished. But we sent teams to search the biodome entrance yesterday. They reported it was empty. The entrance, yes, Taeyang said. But the biodome has deep sections. Restricted areas where only the botanists go. The security team might have missed them. Doyen grabbed his communicator. This is Ambassador Doyen to all human personnel in or near the biodome. Report your location immediately. One by one, voices responded. Garden staff, maintenance workers, atmospheric technicians. All accounted for except one. Where is Hajun? Doyen asked. A supervisor's voice came through the communicator. He is on deep cycle shift, Ambassador. He should be in the restricted growth section. But that area has communication interference. He probably cannot hear you. Doyen was already moving toward the door. Minji, Taeyang, come with me. We are going to the biodome right now. In the conference room command center, Queen Veltara listened as her soldiers reported their progress. They had searched the residential areas, the commercial districts, the industrial zones. They had questioned hundreds of beings from dozens of species. No one had seen 2 young Krishari. A human security officer approached carefully, keeping his distance. Your Majesty, Ambassador Doyen requests permission to search the biodome complex personally. It is one of the few areas not yet fully cleared. The Queen's eyes fixed on him. The biodome? That is where you grow your plants? Yes, Your Majesty. It is possible the princesses entered that area. It is quiet and has limited surveillance. The Queen stood. Her guards immediately formed up around her. I will go there myself. If my daughters are in that place, I will be the one to find them. The security officer paled. Your Majesty, perhaps it would be better to let our teams... I will go there myself, the Queen repeated. Her voice allowed no argument. Deep in the biodome's restricted section, Hajin finally removed his earphones. He had finished checking the rare orchids and was ready to take a break. He walked toward his small rest area, a padded mat in a clearing where he sometimes napped during long shifts. As he approached, he saw something that made him stop. 2 creatures were there, huddled together on his mat. They were unlike anything he had seen before. They looked somewhat like insects, but their bodies had a grace and intelligence that insects lacked. Their armor plates caught the light from the bioluminescent vines above, glowing softly. Hajun's first thought was that some exotic animals had escaped from the xenobiology lab. His second thought was that they looked scared. One of the creatures made a clicking sound. The other responded with a different pattern of clicks. They were communicating. That meant they were smart, not just animals. Hajun sat down slowly several meters away. He did not want to frighten them more. He pulled out his lunch container and opened it. The smell of food made both creatures turn toward him. Their antennae, which had been pressed flat against their heads, lifted slightly. Are you hungry? Hajun asked softly. He knew they could not understand his words, but tone mattered with frightened creatures. He had learned that working with plants and the small animals that sometimes lived in the gardens. He took a piece of his sandwich and placed it on the ground, then pushed it gently toward them. Both creatures watched him carefully. The braver one crept forward, sniffed the food, then took it quickly and retreated. She made happy clicking sounds while eating. The second creature watched her sister, then slowly came forward for her own piece. Hajun smiled and offered more food. He ate his own meal slowly, making no sudden movements. When the food was gone, Hajun stood up carefully. The creatures tensed, ready to run. But he just moved to a nearby storage box and pulled out his spare jacket. He laid it on the mat, creating a softer surface. Then he gathered some of the broad, soft leaves from nearby plants and arranged them around the edges. It made a cozy nest. The creatures watched this with obvious interest. Hajun patted the nest gently, then moved away to give them space. He sat with his back against a tree-like plant and pulled out his tablet to make notes on his work. He started humming softly, a habit he had when working alone. One by one, the two creatures approached the nest he had made. They touched the jacket with their front legs, testing it. Then they climbed onto it and curled up together. Within minutes, they were asleep. Hajun smiled. Whatever these creatures were, they were clearly exhausted. He would let them rest, then figure out where they came from. He adjusted the nearby thermal unit to provide gentle warmth, turned his music very low, and went back to his work. He had no idea that outside the biodome, armies were preparing for war. Ambassador Doyen and his team reached the biodome's main entrance. Two Krishari guards stood there, weapons ready. They had been about to force their way in when Doyen arrived. "Wait," Doyen said. "Let us do this carefully. If the princesses are in there, we do not want to frighten them." Behind him, Queen Veltara arrived with her full escort. She pushed past everyone and stared at the biodome's entrance. The glass door showed a glimpse of green paradise inside, so different from the metal corridors of the station. "My daughters are in there," she said. It was not a question. Something in her, some maternal instinct, told her they were close. "Then let us go find them, Your Majesty," Doyen said. "But please let me lead. The biodome is delicate and—" "I do not care about your plants, human," the queen snapped. But after a moment, she gestured for him to proceed. "Go, find them, now." Doyen opened the doors and stepped into the warm, humid air of the biodome. The contrast from the station's recycled atmosphere was immediate. Here the air smelled of earth and growing things. Bioluminescent plants cast gentle blue and green light through the pathways. "Hajun," Doyen called out. "Hajun, where are you?" "This is an emergency!" Far ahead, deeper in the restricted section, Hajun finally heard something. He looked up from his work, confused. Was someone calling his name? He pulled out his earphones completely and listened. "Hajun, answer if you can hear this." That was definitely Ambassador Doyen's voice, and he sounded stressed. Hajun stood up quickly, then glanced at the two sleeping creatures. He should probably wake them and move them somewhere safe before dealing with whatever emergency was happening. He walked over to his rest area and knelt down. "Hey," he said softly. "I'm sorry, but I need to—" Both creatures woke instantly. They saw him and made quiet, happy clicking sounds. One of them reached out with a small leg and touched his hand gently. "Hajun." The voice was much closer now. He heard footsteps running through the garden paths. "I am here," Hajun called back. "In the restricted section." The footsteps became a thunder of running boots. Suddenly, the small clearing filled with people. Ambassador Doyen appeared first, breathing hard. Behind him came Minji, Taeyang, and several security officers. And behind them, filling the entrance to the clearing, came Queen Veltara and her warriors. Hajun stood up quickly, confused and suddenly very nervous. Why were so many people here? Why did they all look so panicked? Then he saw the queen. His blood went cold. She was enormous, terrifying, and her armor glowed with barely contained rage. Every weapon in the clearing was now pointed at him. The two creatures on his mat made distressed clicking sounds. And suddenly Hajun understood. These were not escaped lab animals. These were children. Important children, oh no, he whispered. The space station called Celestial Haven floated in the darkness between star systems. It was huge, almost like a small city that hung in space. Inside its metal walls, creatures from dozens of different worlds lived and worked together. Some had fur, some had scales, and some looked like nothing anyone from Earth had ever imagined. Today was special. The station buzzed with nervous energy because Queen Veltara was coming. She ruled the Krishari Empire, and her people were known across the galaxy as fierce warriors. The Krishari looked like enormous insects, but they were smart and powerful. Queen Veltara herself stood 3 meters tall, with 6 strong arms and armor that looked like purple crystal growing from her body. When she was angry, that armor glowed with an inner fire that made even the bravest soldiers step back. Ambassador Doyen stood in the docking bay, waiting. He was the leader of the human delegation on the station. His formal uniform felt too tight, and sweat formed on his forehead despite the cool air. These peace talks were important. If they failed, there might be war between humans and the Krishari. He had practiced his greeting speech 100 times, but his mouth still felt dry. The Krishari ship docked with a heavy thud that shook the floor. The airlock opened with a hiss of pressure equalizing. First came the royal guards, each one carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Their mandibles clicked in a rhythm that sounded like a war drum. Then came Queen Veltara. She moved with grace despite her size. Her compound eyes glittered like cut gems, taking in everything around her. Behind her, 2 smaller figures walked carefully. These were her daughters, Princess Lixa and Princess Myra. They were young by Krishari standards, only about the size of a large dog. Their armor was still soft and light-colored, showing their youth. Doyen bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, welcome to Celestial Haven. We are honored by your presence." The Queen's translator device crackled to life. Her voice came through it, deep and commanding. "Ambassador Doyen, I have come because my people desire peace. But know this, human. If any harm comes to my daughters while we are here, your species will learn why the galaxy fears the Krishari." It was not exactly a friendly greeting, but Doyen had expected worse. "Your daughters will be as safe here as in your own palace, Your Majesty. You have my word." The Queen made a sound like rocks grinding together. It might have been approval. Her guards immediately surrounded the 2 princesses, forming a protective wall. The royal group moved through the station toward their quarters, and everywhere they passed, other species hurried to get out of the way. In another part of the station, far from the formal ceremonies, a young human named Hajun worked in the biodome gardens. He wore simple work clothes stained with soil and plant sap. His hands moved gently among the leaves, checking each plant with care. Hajun loved his job. Taking care of plants was peaceful work, and it made him happy to see things grow. He had heard about the Krishari Queen arriving today, but it did not affect his work. The biodome was his world, a place of green growing things and quiet peace. He put in his earphones and started his evening routine, humming along to soft music while he checked the tropical section. 2 days after the Queen's arrival, the station held a cultural festival. It was meant to help different species understand each other better. There were displays of art, demonstrations of traditional dances, and stalls selling food from 100 different worlds. The halls filled with colors and sounds and strange smells. Princess Lixa and Princess Myra had never seen anything like it. In the Krishari Empire, everything was ordered and formal, but here creatures laughed and shouted and bumped into each other without fighting. The princesses watched from behind their guards, their antennae twitching with curiosity. "Look at that one." Lixa clicked to her sister in their own language, pointing at a human child eating something sticky and sweet. "It puts food directly into its face opening." "How strange. Mother says humans are weak," Myra clicked back, "but they smile so much." "Do you think they are always happy?" Their guard captain, a scarred veteran named Thax, kept his weapons ready. He trusted nothing in this place. Too many species, too much chaos. It made his warrior instincts scream danger. During a particularly loud demonstration of human music, something happened. The crowd pushed forward to get a better view. The guards moved to keep the Queen safe. In the confusion, the 2 princesses slipped sideways into a maintenance corridor. They had only meant to look, to explore for just a moment. They would be right back. But maintenance corridors all looked the same. The princesses turned left, then right, then left again. The sounds of the festival faded behind them. They found themselves in a quieter section of the station, near the biodome complex. The air smelled different here, green and alive. "We should go back," Myra said, her antennae drooping with worry. "I know which way," Lixa said, but she did not sound certain. An hour later, Guard Captain Thax noticed the princesses were gone. His blood ran cold. He searched the immediate area, hoping they had just wandered a few steps away. But they were nowhere to be found. He had to tell the Queen. Queen Veltara had been discussing trade agreements with Ambassador Doyen when Thax entered the conference room. The captain's posture told her everything before he spoke. She rose to her full height and her armor began to glow. "Where are my daughters?" Her voice was quiet, which was somehow more terrifying than if she had screamed. "They are missing, my queen. We are searching, but—" The Queen's roar shook the walls. Every being in the conference room dove for cover except Doyen, who stood frozen in shock. "You promised they would be safe." The Queen's mandibles opened wide, showing the powerful crushing surfaces inside. "You promised, human." "Your Majesty, please let us help search." "We will find them. The station is secure. They cannot have gone far." Doyen spoke quickly, trying to keep his voice calm even though his heart raced. "You have until this time tomorrow," the Queen said. Each word dropped like a stone. "If my daughters are not returned to me unharmed, I will consider this an act of war. The Krishari fleet will reduce this station to dust, and then we will visit your Earth." She meant every word. Doyen could see it in her glowing eyes. The station went into immediate lockdown. All docking bays sealed. No ships could leave. Security teams spread throughout the corridors, searching every room, every closet, every storage bay. Other species locked themselves in their quarters, terrified of getting caught in the crisis. In the human delegation's emergency center, Doyen coordinated with his team. Minji worked the security cameras, reviewing hours of footage. Taeyang interfaced with the station's computer systems, trying to track any sign of the young Krishari. "We have them entering Maintenance Corridor 7, Minji said, pointing at a screen. "But then they disappear. That section has a sensor blind spot near the biodome." "The biodome?" Doyen grabbed his communicator. "Get me everyone working in that area. Now." But the biodome was large and parts of it had heavy shielding to protect sensitive plants. Communications did not work well inside. And Hajun, deep in the restricted growth section with his earphones in, had no idea that anything was wrong. Outside the station, Krishari warships began moving into position, their weapons charging, waiting for the Queen's command.